Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Essential Sports Pod. It's been a while. It's been way too long, actually. But we're
Yeah,
back now. Episode 14 of the podcast. Coming back with a little more baseball about the Cardinals. As, we just got past the All Star game. Um, so we're starting out the second half of the season. Um, I'm here today with Gerald, my good friend. So yeah, this episode we're gonna talk about the trade deadline, which is coming up pretty soon here. I'm pretty sure there's 1 month left until the trade deadline. So yeah, we put together some trades that we think would look good for the Cardinals, and yeah, I don't know if hopefully they do these trades or not, but something like them would be nice. So
yeah. I seen your trades for the episode, and those would be pretty nice. But we could hope.
yeah, so. Um, do you want to start with your trade first or one of mine?
I say we go one.
Okay.
Like you say one, I say one.
So I want to hear yours first. Let's see what you got.
All right. So for my first trade, I have the Cardinals sending Juan Yepes, Matthew Liberatore, and Moises Gomez to the White Sox to receive Michael Kopech and Brooks Baldwin. Um, to start, Michael Kopech really hasn't had the best season. I actually just looked at his baseball savant page, and it looks like he's been injured. But he's a 27-year-old right-handed arm. He's 6'3", 210. So an imposing figure on the mound. His fastball reaches 96, and then he has a slider at 85 and a changeup at 89, which that sounds pretty nasty. And then a
Yeah.
81 mile per hour curve. I'm pretty sure he's known to have like some pretty nasty stuff, um, which is of course something that the Cardinals lack in the rotation. We kind of have guys that pitch to contact a little bit more, so having him in the rotation would be definitely a different look. And I think the White Sox are in a position to sell this deadline. So I would love to pick up an arm like this. His stats for the season, he's 3-8, which I don't really care about win loss record from starter, but he has a 4.47 ERA and his whip is at 1.41, which is it's all right. It's a little bit high, but you know, with the guy that strikes out a lot, his whip is bound to be a little bit higher. But what I do like to see from him is that in 86 innings pitched this year, he has 97 strikeouts. So he's been reliable as far as striking, which is again something that we're missing. And also, one thing that I like about him is that he has team control going forward. I want to say I don't want to be wrong, but I believe it's through 2025 at least. So yeah, a pitcher that's coming up on his prime years and has strikeout stuff, and we can kind of buy low. I think that would be a good trade for us.
No, I definitely agree. I think the rotation, especially the starting rotation, lacks that, as you said, like that nasty stuff, like the strikeout guy. Right now you see guys like Spencer Strider, Garrett Cole, who are top pitchers who are just strikeout guys. Um, you know, the Cardinals' way has always been ground balls and let the defense do their job, but game's changing, especially with the new rules. And can't have shifts, can't get well, you can still get creative, but it's very limited nowadays. So, yeah, it sounds like a good trade. Is there any reason why you want to get rid of those guys that you want to get rid of?
I'm sorry, I completely didn't cover the other prospect that I included, but yeah, like you said, Juan Yepes and Moises Gomez to me are pretty much similar players. Um, probably plus with the bat and probably a little bit below league average on the defensive end. And the Cardinals, as far as their DH situation, a lot of guys going forward that can fill that role. We've had Contreras do it. We've had Gorman fill it. You know, with Ivan Herrera coming up and establishing himself, I think that's going to push Contreras a little bit more to the DH, maybe. So, you know, the guys like Juan Yepes and Moises Gomez and Alec Burleson who have the plus bat but don't have the plus defense, I think it kind of hurts them, you know. And we already have plenty outfielders who are more rangy than them and probably have a little bit more upside with Carlson and Newt Bar and all of that. So I think those are definitely pieces that could be expendable. Um, Also, I threw in Brooks Baldwin. He's their 30th ranked prospect in their system, so he's not a highly touted prospect at all. Um, but he's a switch hitter, and they say he plays with a lot of instincts. Um, so I know the Cardinals love those type of players. Maybe doesn't have all the tools like all the speed and the light tower power, but if he can play with instincts and develop his game, he could be a nice piece sprinkled into the deal. But yeah, to answer your question, I think those are the type of guys that we want to throw in the trade because they're kind of one dimensional as players. They're not going to go out there in the field and be nice. They're probably going to have a strong arm, I will say. But yeah, just everyone's always in the hitter. I mean, in the market for hitters, and I feel like the Cardinals have a few guys that could fill that role.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the Cardinals are like overloaded with bats, and that's why I wouldn't say it made it hard to make like make these hypothetical trades, but it was hard like choosing which guy should go and which guy shouldn't because a lot of people are very very similar.
Right.
But I think those are nice guys. I'd love to. What position does that switch hitter play?
Let me. Sorry, my fault. But I know he's pretty young. Um, Give him a quick. Well, I think he's an infielder, maybe, but I could be wrong. Yeah, he's a young guy, born 2000, age 22, third baseman. Yeah, so a switch hitting third baseman who plays with instincts, just a guy that would add pretty well to our minor league outlook. When you can get a switch hitter and your prospects, I think that's a great look. So to add him, that would be great. I think he's at the double A. No, he's at single A right now, but his OPS is at 775, so he has been producing. Um, and he just got drafted in 2022, so plenty room to grow. So I thought that was a good throw in piece. He's not highly touted at all, so just to get something back.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great trade. But moving on to my first trade, I was looking at I guess some younger guys on uh, on the market, and I was looking at websites and stuff, and came across this guy Brian Wu. He's a 23-year-old starting pitcher. He's a right-handed pitcher, and he's the Mariners' number 3 prospect. He just called up. He got called up this year, and he's only pitched 34 innings so far, but he's sitting at a 3.63 ERA, and his WHIP is at a 1.07, which that's pretty good. And yeah, he's another strikeout guy. He's got 43 strikeouts in his 34 innings pitched. And like you said, I'd love to see the Cardinals have that strikeout guy. Sometimes it's it's hard relying on these balls not getting past the players in the infield or getting hit down the line and the outfielders aren't there. But um, yeah, I'd love to see a strikeout guy on our team. But to give up, I put Jack Flaherty, who he's 27 years old and he's got an expiring contract right now. So, you know, he could go. He was supposed to be our ace, and I feel like over and over we're reminded that he's just not going to be that guy for us. And as much as we came into this season thinking he was going to finally have that season, it's just not. He's pitched 92 innings. He's got a 4.27 ERA and a WHIP of 1.56. So I feel like that's pretty average, or maybe a little less than average. And so yeah, he's been very underwhelming this season. Secondly,
Yeah.
out of the three guys that I would be giving up is Tyler O'Neill. He's 28 years old and he's also on an expiring contract. I'm pretty sure he's on a 1-year contract right now, who he just signed this past off season. And
I
he's
think
hit.
he be
What you can say?
my fault.
No, you're good.
I think he becomes a free agent after next year.
Okay.
So kind of expiring.
Okay. So he's got one more season. But Tyler O'Neill again. We thought he was gonna get back to that kind of MVP season he had 2 years ago. Hitting around 40 homers, Gold Glover. But the season again, he's been injured. He's underwhelming in his hitting stats, even though he's only played 29 games. And yeah, he's hitting 228 with an on-base percentage of 283, which just kind of shows he's not really walking very much, and his OPS is down to 620. So yeah, I'd get rid of him just because we just have so many outfielders. I feel like we could put so many people out there that somebody can be expendable, and I think Tyler O'Neill has good value to him to be able to go, and he's still kind of young. So I also think the Mariners, if they would extend him, he would probably go for cheap because he hasn't really proven to be that very expensive outfielder, corner outfielder that you'd pay. But yeah. And lastly, I added Juan Yepes, just like you. I just feel like I agree with you with having so many DHs. Now we're seeing Luke and Baker come up and be in the DH. Ivan Herrera, who's stepped up, as you said. We got so many people. Nolan Gorman, who plays DH sometimes, or Jordan Walker, his defense is still improving. So, you know, I think Juan Yepes is a good DH for teams to have. I wouldn't mind him being our DH, but I think we have people over him at the DH spot. So, yeah, that's my first trade that I guess came up with.
Yeah, to kind of add on to your trade, I really like that trade for the reasons that we kind of feel like as Cardinals fans that we kind of have quantity over quality with players. So many guys that can be up at the big leagues and be a big leaguer, but we don't have that quality as far as pitching wise. I would say we don't have that quality. So to bring in a young guy like that would be great. I like your trade because I do see the Mariners as a team that could give up one of their starting pitchers because they do have some of the best pitching in the league. I won't lie. Like I've kind of kept tabs on them, and they have some pretty good guys. So, like you said, some of them could be expendable. Also, Tyler O'Neill was drafted by the Seattle Mariners, so it could be a reunion
There you go.
for him to go there. You know, and if they could possibly get out of him, half of what he was 2 years ago. I'm sure they'll be happy. That's still 2025 home runs. But we all know the biggest thing with Tyler O'Neill is his health. Is he going to be able to get out there and play and, not have any setbacks? But yeah, like you said, that to me would that trade to me kind of just looks like you give up O'Neal, who's been kind of fragile as a Cardinal, hasn't stayed healthy, and Same thing for Jack Flaherty, but quality big leaguers when they're right for an up and coming arm. I do like that trade.
Yeah, I think it also sets up the Cardinals kind of well for the future. You know, you bring in a very young guy who's a good prospect, and then you also got Tink Hens. You know, maybe McGreevy, Jerpy, all those guys will be coming up at some point. So I think it'll be nice without giving up too much. I'd say just from what we've seen recently from these guys. But yeah, let's move on to your second trade.
Yeah, so like we were just talking about, the Cardinals have some arms coming up that could be decent for the future, like McGreevy and Jerpy and Tankins and all of that. But my second trade is for the Cardinals to send Tyler O'Neill to the Yankees for a pitcher by the name of Clayton Beeter, who is the Yankees' 13th prospect in their system. And to kind of give you reasons as to why I could see this move being kind of realistic is one, obviously the Cardinals would be willing to move off of outfielders for pitching help, I believe. Second, the Yankees still kind of need outfield help. From what I've heard, I heard they're in the market for Shohei. So, I'm sure they're willing to go out there and get some improvements on their team. And if Tyler O'Neill is healthy, he could help them. Obviously, that could be a reunion with Bader. So, we've kind of had those talks with Yankees in the past and have had trades with them. So I think it's kind of realistic. To talk about Clayton Beeter, he's a guy who is at AAA right now. He was at AA, absolutely shoving. I believe he had a 2.34 ERA at AA, and he got the call. And I think at this point he hasn't had that many starts in AAA, but he is kind of getting shelled. But he just got called up. But the type of pitcher that he is, first off, he has elite stuff, like good strikeout stuff. Like I said, he was great in AA. He pitches with a high arm slot that creates downhill plane and deception, which is kind of, I hate to bring up Giovanni Gallegos for the comparison, but, that's the high arm slot, But this is a guy that kind of has some injury history. A little bit in 2017, he had Tommy John, and then he had some type of elbow surgery. So I think that could be some of the cons that could be. But he's still kind of raw as a pitcher. They're still trying to figure out if he's going to be a starter or reliever long term. But he has been starting, and he has gone out there and looked pretty well. And another reason that I think the Yankees can come off of him is because if you look at the Yankees team on paper, their rotation is supposed to be one of their strengths. They have Rodon and Garrett Cole, and they Severino, and they
Lights out.
Nestor Cortez. Exactly, I forgot about him. So long term, I think they have the guys that they want in the starting rotation. So I think that would make him a little bit more expendable. But yeah, he has a fastball that sits 93, 96, but touches 98. And he has a filthy slider and a good curveball. And then he has a low 80s changeup. That he barely uses, but maybe if he gets here as the Cardinals, they can maybe switch up his repertoire to suit what they want out of him. But yeah, just the pros, I think he has good strikeout stuff, and he's a young starter who has been successful in the minors. And maybe the cons, I would say, is maybe he doesn't develop into a starter. Maybe he's more like a relief guy, but you know, we're shooting for the upside because John Mozeliak came out and said we're going for 2024. This isn't our season, so you know, looking down the line, this is the type of guy that I will win the team for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great trade. Seems like it's a kind of a trend to get Tyler O'Neill out of here. I feel like that was kind of the story, especially at the beginning of the season when Ali came out and said some stuff about O'Neill publicly, which was kind of weird. But you know, yeah, I think that's a great trade. I'd definitely be willing to get rid of or send Tyler O'Neill to the Yankees, especially since we have trading history with them with Montgomery last season, and I think it was a pretty good trade for them as well. Getting Harrison Bader. I'm pretty sure Harrison Bader is their starting center fielder now. So, um, you know, maybe his bat isn't as good, but best center fielder defensively in the league, I'd say. But I think the Yankees would go for that, especially for getting a guy who's made a name for himself in the leagues already. For a guy who maybe doesn't have the maybe doesn't have a chance to become a starter like the Cardinals think. But I think that's a good trade.
To wrap it up a little bit, I finally got scouting grades because I didn't see it while I was talking. But so MLB uses a 20 to 80 scale for prospects. So like when I say these numbers, like scale that out accordingly. But pretty much 50 is average. So just these numbers I'm about to say, you'll hear them. But his fastball is rated 65, which is above league average. And he has a slider that's rated at 65, which, like I said, I believe to be his nastiest pitch, obviously, and the scouts believe so too. And then his changeup is at 40, which a little bit below league average, but when you have all those other plus pitches, you should be good. And then his control is at 40, which is a little bit low, But like I said, he would be getting sent here for like the strikeout stuff and the potential to be a starter maybe next year or the year after.
Yeah, I think those are good numbers. Above average. Can't really argue with those.
Right.
But yeah, moving on to the last trade of the episode. This one is for a guy who I've recently gotten into baseball, especially very very heavily this past 2 years. So I'm kind of new to all these guys, but Yuri Perez has always been someone who stood out to me. I think the Marlins have some good young pitching with Luzardo as well. And I was kind of going back and forth with Yuri Perez or Luzardo, but I think Yuri Perez, um, I like him more. I think it's just more of a personal choice, I'd say. But he's pitched 53 innings with 61 strikeouts in those 53 innings. So he's a strikeout guy. He's has a 2.36 ERA and a WHIP of 1.09. So yeah, just like Brian Wu, he's young. He's making people miss, and he's got a low ERA. And he strike out a lot of people compared to his walks, which is 17. So I think it's a great guy for the Cardinals, especially setting up for the future with all these younger pitchers coming up, possibly next year or the year after. Um, so yeah, uh, with the guys that I would get rid of to send to the Marlins would be first Dylan Carlson, who the seemed like the Cardinals were super high on him last season because of the Juan Soto drama and all of that. Um, I think I would think that they're kind of lower on Dylan Carlson now compared to last season. Hopefully, I just feel like he's not the guy that they think he is. But he's played 56 games. He's 24 years old. He's hit 237, but his on base percentage is at 340. So he'll get on base. But he doesn't hit for power. He's got 5 home runs and 20 RBIs. So, you know, it's not somebody I would ride with for the future, especially if I can get somebody like Yuri Perez. Secondly, it's a guy that the Cardinals, were hoping would be very good, especially like soon. It was Matthew Liberatore, who is 23. He's come up now for the second time. Well, I don't know if it's second time in his career, but last season he came up, and now he came up again, but he got sent down. He played 9 games. He started 8 of them. His ERA sits at 6.75, which is terrible, and his WHIP is at 1.83, which is just even worse, I think. But yeah, I'd send him on just because he's super young, and yeah, I feel like some GMs will be high on him just because he's he was supposed to be really good. So maybe with time he could become very good. And lastly, it's someone to adds a lot of value to this trade is Tommy Edman, who is 28 years old. He's played 84 games, which I think that's either every game he's played or very close to it now that we're halfway through the season. Um, he's hitting 237, 303 on base percentage with a sub 700 OPS, which is lower. Well, league average is about 700. So yeah, and 7 home runs, 29 RBIs. Tommy Edman is a great player. I don't think anybody complains about him on the Cardinals, but it's just to add some value, especially because of that defense. You could really put him anywhere. But yeah, that's my last trade.
Yeah. To add on to your trade, first off, I see Tommy Edmonds in a Marlins uniform. I think Skip would love to have.
All right, everybody, we're back. Just have some technical issues. Go with what you were saying.
So like I was saying, I would think Skip would love to have a guy like Tommy Edman on his Miami Marlins team who's young and upcoming, and they're actually like competing this year. I think Skip coming up as a Cardinal, he was a second baseman, not the best guy on the team, but is very much a leader. Obviously he's a manager now, so I think that speaks to how much he was probably a leader in the clubhouse. And Tommy would go out there and play everywhere and play elite defense with the average bat. So I think that brings a lot of value to a team. Libertor, the trade between us and the Rays to send the Rosarena there looks worse and worse by the day. But, you know, um, he still has a lot of upside in the league. He has a great curveball. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Okay. He has a great curveball, good fastball. He just has to figure out how to put it together. And then, yeah, to get Yuri Perez, he doesn't have that many innings. Um, professional baseball, I think is on this season, but like you said, the upside is there. And so if we were able to pull that off, I would be ecstatic.
Yeah. When I think of the Marlins, I think of Luis Arias, who is just having a crazy season. He's hitting. He was hitting 400 at one point. I think right now he's sitting at like 383 or something like that. But as much as I would love to get a hitter like that, um, you know, we have to go for pitching. So Yuri Perez, he's one of the first names that came to my head when I started thinking about trades, especially for young pitchers. Um, it hurts to let Tommy Edman go just because of how much he's done. It seems like he's always the one to step up when there's an issue. Just like played center field for a while this season for the first time ever in his career. He'll play anywhere without. I don't know if he has any questions or not, but it feels like he just does it without asking any questions. But yeah, as much as I hate to say it, I'd be willing to part with him. With Dylan Carlson as well, just because again he's got good defense, but not enough for me, I'd say. But yeah, you
Yeah.
got anything else to add?
Yeah. Now that you mentioned Carlson, like Carlson really doesn't move the needle for me anyway. Like he's fine. He's there. His bat is average. His glove is a little bit above average, and he's an average runner. So you know, throwing him in that trade, hopefully that would entice them a little bit more. Not sure if they would want to be willing to part ways with Yuri because he's 20. He has nasty stuff. He's already been proven at the MLB level to be a high level starter. So I don't know if they would part ways, but if they were willing to, I think the Cardinals should definitely try to pounce on that. Also, the Marlins have great pitching overall, so that's also another thing that you always have to mention with trades is does the team already have good starting pitching and would they be willing to part with their younger pitching? So never know. Hopefully, but we can hope. But we'll see what Mosaic does with
Yeah,
these deals, man.
let's hope the Cardinals are active this trade deadline. I know Mo said they're gonna trade some guys. Probably some guys with expiring contracts. But yeah, let's hope they're active. Hopefully, to feel like it. I mean, last year we had a good trade deadline. It feels like. Hopefully, we can do the same this season just to set us up great for next season because this season's kind of.
It's done. It's done. We're done.
Yeah, as much
We're
as much as I hate to
done.
say it, you gotta accept it. It's not gonna be a good season every season. So,
It's unfortunate.
but yeah, it's gonna do it for this episode. Thank you guys for being patient with us. It feels good to be back in front of the camera, recording for you guys, talking some baseball. And yeah, this should be out on Tuesday. This one you guys are gonna be hearing it and watching it on YouTube. We are on YouTube. We got some new stuff for it. So we're ready to take that step to YouTube. Um, so yeah, come listen to us on YouTube. You can watch us. We got our face cams on here. If you are still on Apple Podcasts, thank you for listening there, or on Spotify, Amazon, any of those. But yeah, thank you, Gerald, for coming on here.
Oh,
So yeah, we'll see you guys in next episode.